everybody. Sorry about that. My producer has been fired. Welcome to the Dynasty Pros Devy Show alongside JT and SC Romero. I am Tommy Harvey. Tonight we're going to talk about Devy quarterbacks and their rankings and how we feel they slot into NFL Dynasty rankings right now. How you guys doing tonight, boys?
Doing good, man.
Great.
Doing good.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Can't wait to talk a little Devy QB action.
Oh yeah, this is our very first show together. We are going to continue to gel, but let's go and get into it. Hey, also, if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to know whenever we go live, make sure you got that notification bell on. So as far as tonight goes, guys, we're going to talk about quarterback rankings. Initially, to start off with, I want to kind of give our overall top 5 as far as Devy rankings go for the quarterbacks. For me personally, I'm going to go Caleb Williams. I think he's pretty much everybody's number 1. Drake Maye is my number 2. Number 3, I got Drew Aller for Penn State. 4, I got Malachi Nelson for USC, and number 5, I got Quinn Ewers of Texas. Where do you guys have in your top 5?
I'll let you go ahead first, JC.
Yep, no problem. Jumping in on mine, I've got Caleb Williams as my 1. Drake Maye is my number 2. Drew Aller is my number 3. Malachi Nelson is my number 4. And then Cade Klubnik from Clemson is my number 5 overall.
So nothing too spicy. Number 1, Caleb Williams as well. Number 2, Drake Maye from North Carolina. And I'm a Duke fan, so that hurts me to say that, but he's good. Drew Aller at number 3. And then I have Shedeur Sanders at number 4 right now with Cade Klubnik from Clemson at number 5 as well.
I tell you what, SC, I really dig that Shedeur Sanders ranking right there. He's got prime as his father. You know, he knows what he's looking for. He knows what to coach in order to get his son to the league, and he's in good hands there.
Yes, sir. I think this is the make or break season. Not make or break season, but this is a huge highlight of how he can climb the rankings this season because he jumped conferences. Now he's in that Pac-12, so the competition is going to rise for him. So if he really is that prime time like his dad was, we're going to see it this season for sure. And that can definitely get him into, the top 5 overall for any Devy ranking, I feel like.
Sure. Yeah, he was actually in Knoxville over the weekend. Him and Joe Milton held a camp over at Dick's Sporting Goods. Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. I think we all basically have, Williams, May, Aller, all there. Both of you have Klubnik. I don't know what to think about him. To me, I watched him. I watched him play in that bowl game, in the Orange Bowl. He doesn't seem to have just an overly strong arm. Of course, he is just a freshman, but he just looks like he's going to get hurt out there sometimes to me. And a guy who doesn't have a big arm and looks as frail as he looks kind of scares me a little bit. What do you guys think?
Personally, man, I think he's a natural at the position. I mean, his size, sure, can get in the fold of him, but he's a natural. He throws with accuracy. He's someone that can escape the pocket and extend the plays as well, and that's something you like in your quarterbacks. When he's at the huddle, he kind of takes control and has that leadership mentality. So when it comes to your QBs at that young age, seeing that in that freshman level, I feel it's only going to get better for him, and this is a great test to just see him elevate continuously at Clemson for me.
Yeah, I got to agree with that, C there. I just think him going into this next season as the clear-cut starter, DJ's finally gone, doesn't have that kind of hanging over him. I think it's a chance for him and Clemson to kind of start fresh. I felt like last year was a little bit of all-around back and forth. I don't think he really felt like it was totally his team. I think he goes in feeling it's totally his team this year. I'm expecting a big step forward from him this year. I just think I think he's going to bounce back. I think Clemson's going to bounce back, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a big year for him to kind of come out and kind of solidify himself in that top 5.
I'm kind of excited to see what he does with the new offensive coordinator coming in. They brought in TCU's offensive coordinator, so he knows what to do. As far as working with kind of those smallish quarterbacks. So we'll see what he's able to do with them. I think he'll run a lot of that RPO action, get some of that intermediate passing going. They didn't really tend to do a lot of that over at Clemson last season. So hopefully that'll kind of help him progress a little bit more as a quarterback, and maybe that will kind of change my mind on him as far as being a Devy prospect.
I agree. He's kind of just when I watch him play, it's kind of just with elegance. Like, he's just very light on his feet, can make the right throws and build up on that. And where, like he said, we're going to see him take the full control of, hey, this is my team. And a lot of times when you get that quarterback to do that, it just takes them to a whole nother level, because there's no more debate, okay, who's going to start or anything like that. It's his, and it's his to take for it.
I like it.
Yeah, I just think that, I was going to say, I think this 24 class is just going to be really interesting for a lot of guys. It's a big year for a lot of these guys. And I just think behind Caleb Williams and Maye, I think there's a ton of room and movement. I could see guys jumping all the way up in the top 5, and I could see guys dropping outside the top 10, depending on what they do this season. So I'm interested to talk about this top 5, because I just think it could go all over the place, and I think there's just so many different ways this could end up for this 2024 class, looking at as a possible draft for next year.
Well, there's so much talent incoming this season, particularly for this incoming freshman class. I mean, you got 4, 5, 6, 7 guys who are just outstanding coming in. We'll get to that here in a little bit, though. As far as these top 5 guys, where do you guys see them as far as being dynasty quarterbacks? Where would you have them ranked with the NFL quarterbacks right now?
If we're talking about Caleb as the one right now, I mean, I was trying to think about it. I think going in, I'd have him about QB8, definitely a top 10. And that's assuming he just continues to grow from the season he had last season. We'll get further in when we talk about that 24 class. But, I mean, he was someone that was the leader in passing touchdowns, with 42 this past season. So if someone that can continue to grow and not just plateau, the sky's the limit. So, I mean, I think he's already a top 10 dynasty quarterback, and someone that if you can make a move for those 24 first, he's someone to try to go after for sure.
Well, I 100% agree on that. I think I have him as I think I've got him right now as my QB7 in Dynasty, right behind like a Trevor Lawrence type guy.
Right.
I think he's more of a total package than what a Justin Fields is. That's why I have him ranked ahead of him. And even without having played a snap in the league, I would say he's better than a Justin Fields is right now.
For sure.
Yeah, if I'm jumping into my rankings on these guys going overall, man, I'm looking at, I've got Caleb Williams right in that kind of QB9 spot, with Drake Maye kind of right behind him at QB10, Drew Allar at QB11. Those are my guys that kind of right in that mix. Malachi Nelson, I think he's kind of in that QB 16 to 20 range, and I think I've got Klubnik. If I looked at it right now, I'd have him about QB 20, QB 21, with a chance to really jump up that list this year with a big year at Clemson.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I mean, me and you are in the same area. Caleb at that QB8, Drake Maye at that QB11 for me, just outside the top 10. I think this year we see a lot more, and that can definitely push him in if he, he's losing Josh Downs. So to see what he does with the new talent around him will be awesome. And then Drew Allar, is my QB13. This guy we're going to talk about that 2025 class. And he's someone that if he's not on your radar, you definitely want him in there over there at Penn State. Shadou Sanders, I have him just outside that top 15, about QB 16. And really that's just, again, testament to see what he does this season in a different competition level in that Pac-12. But Cade Klubnik, you hit it right on the money. I have him at QB 21. So just outside that range of the top 20. But, again, someone that if we see that increase in his upside, that we see a little bit more of that upside from him taking a full year as a starter, then he could definitely rise the board as well.
Awesome. Obviously, all these rankings are just projections. That's basically what Devy is kind of projecting what these guys are going to be. We take as much video, film, knowledge of these guys as we possibly can and just kind of infuse them into our own rankings. And a lot of it's based off personal preference. I had Malachi Nelson slightly higher than that. I have him as QB 12. If he were in the league right now, he'd be QB 12 as far as Dynasty, in my opinion. He just has that type of skill set. Aller, I think I have it. Aller, I have it 10. May, I have it 9. Caleb Williams, I have it 7. I dropped Quinn Ewers a little bit down to QB 17. I think Ewers has a ton of talent. Coming out of high school, he was what a perfect 1,000 on 24/7. That's very, very rare. So he obviously has very special talent. He just has to be able to put it together. I think there's still time for that. Based off the spring reports, it's not looking great right now, but I think you give him a little bit of time and he'll jump back up there in those rankings.
Yeah, I think Ewers got all the talent, all the ability. He's down in my rankings right now, not because I don't think he has the talent and ability. I just think he got a little bit exposed last year at Texas. He just didn't come out and do everything you thought he was going to do, and now you add Arch Manning into the mix. That's what's got me worried about him as far as Devy value is concerned. I mean, what happens if Arch Manning comes in and beats him out? What if they split some time? What if one of those guys struggles and the other guy ends up getting more playing time? That's where I'm a little worried about Ewers right now as far as where I'm taking him in Devy. Is I feel like there's a couple other guys who have a little more clear-cut shot at being the man on their team and not another guy kind of looking over their shoulder. And that's where I'm a little bit scared on Ewers and just kind of his situation at Texas. I still think he's got all the ability, and I'm not down on his ability, but I'm down on him just slightly because of the whole Texas thing and what's happening there with Arch Manning.
Sure. Prior to his injury last year, he was lighting Alabama up in that game. He got hurt and missed some time and came back, and I think he was rusty whenever he came back. But he was dominating Alabama early in that game.
And with Ewers, I mean, any team that loses star running back like Bijan Robinson or Roschon Johnson is gonna hurt. So I think getting Arch Manning should light a fire under him. I mean, this is like a legacy prospect, right? So having that should, have him go in there to be like, all right, I can't give this spot up. This is mine, right? But he's also getting back Xavier Worthy, who's a talented wide receiver, and the transfer of Donnie Mitchell from Georgia, So he's actually getting 2 weapons on the outside now to just help that arsenal and help him build up more exposure and build up more talent to show, hey, I have what it takes. So I'm excited to see what he does. And, I mean, I like Arch Manning. He's one of my top 5 when we get to that class. But, it is definitely Quinn Ewers' team. And hopefully, he goes in there and shows Arch Manning like, hey, wait a year. I'm the starter here.
Also, he's getting Isaiah Nayor back as well from that ACL tear, that the transfer from Wyoming. So he definitely has weapons around him. This is his year to show what he's able to do. We have a question here I want to get up on the page here. Bob asks, which Ohio State quarterback would you be targeting in Devy, Kyle McCord or Devin Brown?
I think this was one of the most interesting battles of the year. I think this battle, the Alabama battle, I think whoever wins this is going to end up being a guy that shoots up the rankings, I think. I like McCord slightly better to maybe win the job. Just his connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the same high school. I think there's a shot there. I think Devin Brown has a load of talent. So the question for me is, whichever guy ends up winning the job ends up becoming the guy I want more in Devy. But that's just kind of the issue there is which one does get it. Obviously, I think if McCord ends up winning that job and playing really well, I think he jumps in to your top 5 for sure, maybe even as high as 3 or 4. But he's got to win that job. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see what happens there, because I think both those guys, as far as being prospects, are really, really highly high prospects that have talent. And so the question is, will they stick around? You never know with the transfer rules the way they are now. The guy loses a job, does he stick it out one more year, or does he transfer? So, I mean, obviously one of those guys going to another school outside of Ohio State would probably be the starter at 90% of other schools in the country. So it's a tough call, but I'm leaning slightly towards McCord as of right now.
I fully expect Kyle McCord to win the job. I think he'll be there for a year. He'll go pro, and then after this coming season, it'll be Devin Brown's team. I remember last season coming into the end of the year, everybody was debating who's QB1 in that class. Is it Drew Aller or is it Devin Brown? Obviously, Aller played, showed what he's able to do. Now he's taken over at Penn State, so everybody's kind of more on the side of Aller. But Devin Brown has a ton of talent.
I agree, and I'm actually on the Devin Brown side. I mean, obviously, yeah, whoever wins that job definitely gives them a little bit more push as far as those Devy rankings. But I think if Devin Brown doesn't win, he's still on your radars because he's going to go in there the following season and just dominate that team. I mean, he's very talented. He stands and delivers. He doesn't necessarily fold when the pressure's collapsing on him in the pocket, and he's able to also extend the play. What I liked about him was he can plant his feet, but then escape the pocket. He's not someone that rushes to throw or anything like that and makes the smart throws when I watched his tape. And personally, I think he has a little bit more talent than McCord, but I'm not the coach there, so we'll see what happens.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I think this 2025 class, as you're looking at it, Aller's my guy. I like him. Klubnik, I got right behind him. But even if McCord starts, I still have Devin Brown as the number 3 in that 2025 class. So, I mean, I think I'm not down on Devin Brown at all. I definitely think even if he doesn't win this job and McCord takes it, I still have him. I still want him in Devy. Yeah, I still have him in my top 5 for that 2025 class.
Okay. On that note, let's go ahead and move on to our top 5 2024 QBs here. I will start with you, JT. Who do you have in your top 5 for 2024? 2024
so,
eligible.
I got Caleb Williams. Eligible, yep. I got Caleb Williams at the top. Drake Maye, kind of like everybody else, 1, 2. This is where I think this year is really going to shake up for some of these guys. Right now, I got Michael Penix Jr. from Washington as my number 3. I got Joe Milton from Tennessee as my number 4, and I have Shedeur Sanders from Colorado as my number 5 in that class. And now I think that could shake up big time depending on what happens this year. But I just think Penix saw a rise last year to Washington from Indiana. He just took a huge step forward. I think he's going to get a lot more spotlight on him this year, especially if Washington's good and they get a good matchup with USC and Caleb Williams. That could be one of those, everybody talking that matchup. I think that'd be huge. Now, on the other side for Tennessee, I mean, Joe Milton has all the size you want, all the ability you want. I mean, everybody just eating up Anthony Richardson this year in the draft. I think you could see the same thing happen next year with the Tennessee prospects. So, I mean, even though he's a lot older, he's got going into his 5th year, I think he could end up having a monster year at Tennessee. I think that would jump him way up draft boards, especially because of his size. Everybody's going to love the size of him, too. He's just a built human being. The guy's
6'5",
big.
242.
Like I said, I think Sanders – yeah, I mean, he's exactly. And I think, Sanders, I think this is the cheapest you're ever going to get him is this year Devy before he blows up at Colorado. I think he's going to have every shot. I don't know how good they're going to be on defense, to be honest with you. I have a feeling like Colorado's going to be in a lot of shootouts, and he's got to have a chance to put up some stats. And I think if you like him, now to get him, because once the season starts and stuff gets going, I think you're going to have a hard time picking him up next year because I think he's going to rise way up the board. Like SC said, I got him my top 5 right now, but depending on he plays, he could jump up to number 3 easily in this class for me.
Well, he's got some decent weapons around him too. They brought in Jimmy Horn Jr. from South Florida. Travis Hunter followed him from Jackson State. He's been getting a lot of reps there at wide receiver also. He kind of has a little bit of position uncertainty. Is he going to play wide receiver or corner or both? And then they also have a freshman. I believe his name's Jordan Tyson. He's also a pretty good wide receiver. They brought in a transfer tight end, Seydou Traore. So I think he's got a lot of weapons to work with there.
Agreed, and that's what makes him in my top 3. You know, it's Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Shedeur Sanders, and then I have Quinn Ewers, and then I had it split between Cameron Ward at Washington State and Michael Penix at Washington for my top 5 there. But again, Caleb Williams, I mean, he's a phenomenal prospect. It's looking great. There's not much. If you don't know who he is, you're not watching college football, right? So he's definitely someone that should be on everyone's board as number 1. Drake Maye, I mean, this is also another year. You know, he is losing some talent, as I mentioned, with Josh Downs. So to see what he can do and see what he can do to elevate the receivers around him in J.J. Jones or Kobe Paysour. I also like the running backs behind him that I think can help kind of give away some of his pressure in Omario Hampton or George Pettaway. Those are my favorite running backs on the team. They still do have Elijah Green there as well. But I think Drake Maye, with his size and abilities, I mean, we can see him. He can definitely hop in front and be the QB1 of this class, you know, with a phenomenal season, just because his size alone, about 6'4", just about 220, I do believe. And Shedeur, you know, same thing. He's going to that division, and I'm going to keep saying that because this is a test to see what he's about, to see if he is one of those top quarterbacks. He can make the play. He can throw the ball down the field on the dime, make the right moves. He knows how to read the field, and we're going to see this now. I mean, this is also for primetime, you know, for Coach Deion Sanders to go into a new division or a new conference, if you will, to see, okay, do you have what it takes to be in one of these Power 5 conferences and build that up for him as well. Quinn Ewers, as I said, you know, as my QB4 right now. Right now, to me, I love Arch Manning, but this is his team, and he has the talent around him. We saw a little bit of it last year, and I think this year just goes to a new level because the spotlight's no longer on Bijan Robinson. It's now on him to make sure Texas succeeds down the line. Cameron Ward, I'll talk about him since you brought up Michael Penix. Just a great talent, great athlete. You know, Washington State, always a tough opponent for anybody in the Pac-12 here. Can throw on the dime, is light on his feet, stands about 6'2", just a big guy. When he came over from Incarnate Ward, he really didn't lose a step. He actually elevated his game. So he showed what I want Shedeur to basically do, but based on talent level, that's why I do have Sanders a little bit higher than him, because I believe Shedeur Sanders just has a pure talent, where Cameron Ward is more of a raw talent. So we still have to see some development, but I think he definitely has the arm to make those NFL throws.
I 100% agree on Cam Ward. Last year, he was one of my favorite guys coming into Division I football, transferring into Division I football. He's got a huge arm, threw for a ton of yards when he was at Incarnate Word, and that guy is a monster of a human. If you look at him, I mean, he is so solidly built, and he can run. He has all the tools to be able to get there. My top 5, I think we all have the same top 2. It's Caleb Williams and Drake Maye. Then at number 3, I got Quinn Ewers. I think he just has so much talent. It's untapped talent, but I think him, if he's healthy, he's very, very good, and he showed that in the Alabama game last year. My number 4 guy is J.J. McCarthy. He may be he may be a fringe first-round guy next year. You normally don't see most years. You probably have 3-4 guys in the first round. I see him probably being in that fringe. You can look at guys also like a Cameron Ward, a Joe Milton, Shador Sanders. Speaking of Shador Sanders, he's my number 5. Just a ton of talent. His father, who is also his coach, knows what NFL scouts are looking for, so he knows what to coach him. He knows how to get him there. So I think he'll be perfectly capable of doing that as well. Looks like we've covered 2024. You guys want to move on to 2025 real quick?
Yeah, let's get it, man.
Yeah, I got a quick
go ahead.
Throwing something real quick about JJ. I just think, for me, if he can play like he did the last couple games of the season, if he can put a season together where he played in that Michigan-Ohio State game where he played as well as he did in that game, I think I see him jumping up for me. Right now, the question for me is he's got the size. He's got all that stuff that you want. The issue is quarterbacks in that Michigan system really being able to display all their weapons and everything they can do. It's not been a super friendly quarterback system the last couple of years. So that's for me is the one thing holding them back is being in that system. And are they going to let him open it up a lot more like they did at the end of the year? If he goes into next year and he starts doing exactly what he did at the beginning of the year, man, I think he jumps up boards for me then for sure.
Well, I think that system there, that the friendliness towards the quarterback there at Michigan had a lot to do with talent level. Cade McNamara just wasn't it. Once they made the switch over to J.J. McCarthy, slowly, just more and more every week, he was getting more and more opportunity, and he showed what he's able to do, I think. All right. Let's go and move on to 2025 here, guys. SC, let's go and start with your top 5.
For the 2025 class eligible, I do have Drew Aller, Penn State, Cade Klubnik from Clemson. I have Connor Wingman from A&M, as well as Devin Brown, Ohio State, and then Ja'Cory Brown is my dark horse top 5 for Miami. That I'll speak about him a little bit just because Tyler Van Dyke is there, presumably the starter. But Ja'Cory Brown, he's coming out 6'4", just over 210, a natural runner with the ball with a good arm, and he's quick to release the ball. When it comes to the slants, he can make those deep throws, but it comes with that running ability. When they played him, it was a lot of those wildcat formations where he's going into making that run and making the extended play. But he has a nice arm, and I think if we're able to showcase that after the Van Dyke era, you're going to see some huge elevation from the U, and I'm really excited to see what Ja'Cory Brown could do there as well.
Well, he seems like a really explosive runner. Like, he just runs away from people.
Right. No, and he's someone that he's not afraid to go after the contact either, so he's not a quarterback that he can run, and if he gets that open field, he's gone, but he's not afraid to get that contact and run between the tackles as well, and still pick up, 10, 15 yards if need be as well. Sure.
JT, let's move on to you there, buddy. What do you have in your top 5?
Yeah, I got Drew Aller, a guy I just absolutely love right now. Klubnik right behind him from Clemson. Like I said, talked about him earlier. I think he has a big year this year. I have Devin Brown at 3 from Ohio State. Even if he doesn't win this job, I still really like him. If he wins this job, I think he can even move up higher. The one that's a big if right now for me with a question mark next to his name is Ty Simpson from Alabama. Does he win that job or does he not? If he wins that job, he's clearly in the top 5 in that class. If he doesn't, I still like his ability moving forward, but it just hurts his Devy just slightly. And then a guy I think is a dark horse that transferred last year was Walker Howard. So originally committed to LSU, transferred to Ole Miss this offseason. I don't think he gets any PT this year, really, with the guys in front of him with Jackson Dart and the transfer from Oklahoma State, Sanders. So those guys are probably going to battle it out for the starting job. But I just think the height, where he played in Louisiana, I just think Walker just has really high upside. And he's a guy that I want to get in now because I don't want to wait too long. And where everybody scooped him up, and I'm like, oh, I should have got on him earlier in my Devy leagues because now everybody wants him. So he's kind of an under-the-radar name right now, but I think I actually really like that move. Even though he's not going to start this year for Ole Miss, I like the move to Ole Miss with that coaching staff and that offense, I think he's a guy that could end up really succeeding and being a pretty big steal in that class.
I 100% agree on Walker Howard. A lot of reports coming out of during spring practice right now for Ole Miss, they say he has the best arm talent of the three there. They say he has the potential to be really, really special. Me and you actually have very, very similar top fives. I've got basically the only difference is I've got Devin Brown number 2 and Klubnik number 3. Aller, Brown, Klubnik, Simpson, Howard. Me and you are very, very similar there. I think Devin Brown is a very outstanding quarterback. Like I said earlier, last season people were debating who's the QB1 in that class. Is it Aller or is it Devin Brown? And kind of now people are thinking Aller just because he got the opportunity to play and is going to be the guy this year, whereas Brown looking like he probably won't be till next year, but still he's got plenty of potential there.
I mean, Allard, he has the size in front of him, right? This guy's a giant, like 6'4", 6'5", over 230. I mean, he's a pure passer, but he can move with his feet, and we don't want to give those huge comparisons, but I mean, there is a possibility where it's like, okay, this is a possible future Josh Allen, right? That size. So he has that cannon arm, has the ability to extend the play that you want in the quarterback, but knows to go through his reads first. I don't think he necessarily says, oh, here's an open slot, I need a run. He makes sure his reads are all closed and he can't do it, so he makes the play himself. So, I mean, I think we're just going to see an extended role from him, and he's going to blow up. He's possibly someone that's going to jump in front of those Devy rankings where it's like, if you don't get him now after this blow-up season, you're missing out on a lot.
To me, Aller is a dark horse Heisman favorite this year.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Everything backs him up to say that. Size, ability to throw, ability to escape the pressure, confidence under the pressure. And everything says that. I think he's definitely someone that can make a run for it, given, he makes everything worth it in front of him. I do want to highlight on
a guy from Purdue for this 2022 class. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Jump in there, SC.
No, you're good. I just want to say I want to talk about Connor Weigman here. A dual sport athlete coming out of high school at A&M. He played baseball. You look at some of the quarterbacks in the league that also play baseball. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. He has that same zip when he throws the ball, can throw those bullets, but it doesn't get in front of his deep throw ability as well. He still floats it on the money. But one thing that I've started to look at more with those quarterbacks is, all right, who's not necessarily throwing to the open guy, but who's leading their guy to be open. And that's something that he does with his wide receivers, where if they're not open, he gives that little connection to say, okay, I'm throwing it just 5 yards beyond, and he makes that connection to find that open spot for the wide receivers. And I think that's something that you don't see in a lot of quarterbacks, but it is something that's very valuable, especially if it looks like everyone's closed around and you're like, all right, I can still see a spot to make you open, get there, and he makes the wide receivers get there to make that completed pass. Well,
he's got a couple wide receivers that can make him look really, really good too with Evan Stewart, and then they brought in Tyron Smith from was it UTEP?
Mm-hmm.
Got some really good wide receivers there to help him out, and Bobby Petrino's the new OC there too, so he's gonna get some good coaching.
And they got the running back 2 of this incoming freshman class in
Ruben Owens. Yep.
So that's going to be excited to watch that and what they can do growing together as well.
Yep, absolutely. You pair that with Le'Veon Moss, who they brought in last year's class. They have some good offensive talent there. If Jimbo Fisher just gets out of the way. Well, let's. You guys have any more about 2025? Or are you ready to move on to 2026?
DJT was going to mention our guys.
Yep, Brady Allen. I was just going to bring him up for a minute because all of us had him on. We all had him on our sleepers list, just outside the top 5. Purdue, I mean, this guy has got so much more natural talent than O'Connell did last year. And O'Connell had a pretty decent season the last 2 seasons for Purdue. So I think Allen is a sleeper, big-time Devy pick. If he's in if you're playing a CFF league where you're counting scoring, man, I want to get him in leagues because I think they're going to put up a ton of numbers. That Purdue offense has just been great in the past. The way they've been able to get their QBs just crazy stats. Look at all the wideouts they put in the NFL, even though they not necessarily have had real successful careers in the NFL. They've got there. I just think he's a under the radar kid that could end up blowing up pretty quickly for Purdue and producing.
I've been drafting him real late in C2C league, so hopefully that ends up paying off for me.
Yeah, no, he's a favorite and has all the sizes as well to become a good NFL quarterback. We just definitely need to see that develop it a little bit more, but definitely someone that can climb your boards.
Well, good deal. Well, let's go ahead and move on to 2026, and we'll move on from there. JT, how about you start us off here with 2026?
Rankings here.
I love this class, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh,
yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry about that.
There's 7, 8, 9 guys on here who could easily be in the top 5.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So for me on the 2026 class, I got Malachi Nelson at USC, obviously going to be behind Caleb Williams this year, but a guy that everybody's looking forward to after Williams, that they think he could be an absolute stud in Lincoln Riley's system. Dante Moore, the original guy going to Oregon, now I think he's at UCLA. He's going to get a shot to play there early and often. He's my number 2. Jackson Arnold's a guy I've seen everywhere from 1 to 5 or 6. I just think at Oklahoma, I think there's a chance that he ends up shining there. I think the kid's got a ton of ability. He's at number 3 for me. I'm going to totally butcher his name, and I do it every time, but Nico Imaluva from Tennessee, the freshman, I think is going to be he's going to have a shot. Now, if Milton comes out and plays the way I think he's going to play this year, I think he sits for the season. The difference is, though, if Milton comes out and struggles for any reason, I think he's going to get a shot to get in there on a high-powered offense, and that would raise him up. And right now, at number 5, I got Arch Manning. For me, I think he's maybe as talented as some of those other guys, but I see him behind Ewers right now. So that's why I have him a little farther down the list, because I think some of those other guys are going to get a shot to play and show what they got a little bit earlier than Manning does.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty similar to you here with my 26 guys. I've got Malachi Nelson, number 1. I just think he's so super special. Dante Moore is my number 2 guy. I've got Arch as my number 3 guy here. I've seen a lot of mixed reactions to him. There's some of his tape looks really good, and some of it looks really bad. I've seen actual scouting analysts say that if it weren't for his name, he'd be a 3-star. But some of his film makes him look like a 5-star. He's mobile, which is something completely different from Manning. Neither of his uncles were mobile at all. And he has a really good arm. I've got Nico, number 4, on my list. He's actually done a good job of putting on some weight. Coming in at the beginning of the semester, he's an early enrollee. He was about 198 pounds. They say he's up to 210 now, and coaches believe he can get up to in between 215 and 220. I've seen people compare him to Bryce Young, but 6'6" and not 5'10". So that's if Bryce Young was 6'6" instead of 5'10", he'd be the unquestioned number 1 pick. So that's pretty high praise for Nico. And then my number 5 guy, I've got Jackson Arnold. I just think he has elite arm talent. And being somewhere like Oklahoma, I think he's primed for a lot of opportunity.
I like those rankings, and y'all both had Dante Moore at 2, and he's my number 1, and it's simply, I believe he's going in there day 1 as a starter. And I can go through some text messages of one of my buddies, Doc Holliday, when I text him saying, Dante Moore committed to Oregon. I was super excited about that. I was like, oh, this is great. Then Bo Nix said he was coming back, and then we find out he's going to UCLA. So he's just someone that it's a pure talent, will possibly start as a true freshman, varsity starter since his freshman season in high school, making the plays mobily as well as through the air, can throw the dime, can throw right between the cracks to make sure it gets that precision in there for when they need it. And as I mentioned earlier, he can lead the receivers with the way he throws. He knows how to put that float on the ball to make sure the wide receivers get open. So he doesn't necessarily need to make those forceful throws, but don't get it twisted because he can make those as well. My number 2 is Arch Manning, and it's a legacy thing. I mean, it's a kid that's growing up around arguably the greatest quarterback of all time in Peyton Manning, right? That's not his dad, but he's growing around him. So I do expect that IQ to show at that college level. As I said earlier, I think Quinn Ewers definitely takes the spot. But Texas has a great incoming freshman class, Arch Manning included in that. So to see him develop with this class and be something, I think he's just going to be something special when it comes down the line in these rankings for you. Nico's my number 3. I mean, you hit it right on the money. This guy's just elegant, like Bryce Young, but 6'5". And yeah, without a doubt, if Bryce Young was that tall, if Bryce Young was just 6'1", 6'2", he would have been there, right? But he's someone that, with his size and length, you don't really expect him to move as he does, but he moves so fluid throughout the pocket, but yet still makes those throws on the run with confidence. He doesn't really show any kind of scaredness or fear when it comes to the guys coming after him. He's still able to make that throw even when he's getting the hit. I do have Malachi Nelson as my QB4, and really, I mean, as I mentioned, Dante Moore is my 1 because I think he's starting year 1. These other guys are dropping back just because they have guys in front of them. So Malachi Nelson will feed into a good system. Also a fluid passer, probably one of the better ones in the class. But I think having that extra step on him with Dante Moore may help get him that awareness or that IQ that he needs a little bit faster. And I have a dark horse at number 5, and that's going to be Jaden Rashada from Arizona State. He hasn't officially been given the spot. There is a lot of QBs there, but the coaches right now are saying he has the potential to take the role and be a starter. This guy stands tall. He is a little bit smaller frame, I believe, like under 180, but he's someone that he's not afraid to get hit either. He's someone that can make the plays with his feet, but at the same time, he's a pure pocket passer. He can make those throws as a quarterback as well. And I think that's something just to pay attention to. You don't hear a lot from the Arizona State side, so you're going to see him just take that team to a next level, and that's why I love him so much.
Do you, as far as Dante Moore, do you see him overtaking Colin Schlee, the transfer?
Definitely. I think he's someone that, coming out of high school, he showed the capability to lead a team. He showed his confidence. He showed his IQ. He showed everything you need to see in a college quarterback, and I definitely think he can transfer straight out of high school into that starting role.
Okay. Let's get into some sleepers here, guys. I know we've kind of done it by class here. Like my sleepers for 2024, I had Joe Milton, Kyle McCord, Cameron Ward. I know we've kind of touched on all 3 of those guys. We just talked about Brady Allen, who's my 2025 sleeper. 2026, I've got Kenny Minchie for Notre Dame and Austin Mack at Washington. I just don't think enough people are talking about them, especially Austin Mack. He reclassified to enroll at Washington early. He should actually be a junior right now, but he's reclassified to where he's graduating early, to where he could be a freshman at Washington next year and learn under Michael Penix. That kid is going to be a super stud, in my opinion. You look at his frame, the way he throws the ball, the way he can move, and you pair him with Kalen DeBoer up there, the Washington head coach. Sky's the limit for him.
I agree 100% on Mac. He's one of my sleepers in that class as well. Just has the cannon arm, has the ability to make the throws. I did say in my notes, it says he has to get the ball a little quicker, but he stands poised in the pocket, you know, and 6'6", he's going to be a monster for it. Some of my sleepers, though, for like 2024, I have a forgotten name, I feel like, and that's Spencer Rattler. You know, at South Carolina, I feel he's kind of just slipped down the radar, and it's someone that, you know, a few years ago we were saying he was one of the top QBs, you know, and so I definitely think you want to keep him on your radar. What he can do at South Carolina and in the SEC, it's hard in the SEC for any quarterback. So anyone could slip any given year, and anyone could rise any given year. So this could possibly be a Spencer Rattler year. J.J. McCarthy is actually one of my sleepers, but you touched on him. And then Bo Nix. You know, Bo Nix decided to stay back. He still has Troy Franklin there. He's getting a freshman in Jerrion Dickey. That's a pure talent as well. But I think this is Bo Nix's opportunity to say, look, I have the ability to be one of the top quarterbacks in this class. And he's going to have to showcase it. This is an all-or-nothing kind of deal because he wasn't one in this class, and he slid down the boards. But he's like, okay, let me see if I can play another year to elevate that. So I'm excited to see what he does in Oregon.
Also, his adopted brother, Tess Johnson, has transferred in as well to Oregon as a wide receiver. So that I think that's going to help Bo Nix as well with some chemistry as far as throwing the ball. My issue with Bo Nix is that when he was in the SEC, of course, didn't have the great situation at Auburn. He just kind of seemed to shrink a lot. But it looked like whenever he went out to Oregon, he gained a lot of confidence. So hopefully that helps him out.
Agreed.
You had also mentioned Spencer Rattler there. If Rattler plays an entire season the way he did his final 3 games of the year, Tennessee, Clemson, and then the bowl game, he may be a Heisman guy. He just hasn't shown that type of consistency. But if he can, absolutely, he can be a definite diamond in the rough for a Devy guy.
I don't think he's going to be necessary into that first round talk or anything like that, or, you know, possibly a late day 2 or anything when that time comes. But, you know, sometimes when you're talking about your Devy drafts or your rookie drafts, you want to find those guys that you're getting in the late 2nd, 3rd round. And Spencer Rattler could definitely be one of those guys that when he gets the opportunity in the pros, you know, that's a surefire hit for him.
See, we actually have another question on here. Let me pop this up. Austin asks, "How do we feel about Preston Stone? Is he someone you're interested in?" I am. I'm more interested in him in a C2C format currently, just because I want to see him put it together at SMU. He's been behind Tanner Mordecai. Now with Mordecai transferring over to Wisconsin, it is the Preston Stone show. So we will see what he's able to do. He definitely has the ability. I just want to see him do it.
As SMU is always like a sleeper team to watch because I feel they do produce a lot of great talent. So to see what he'll be able to take control of that team will be interesting. Right now, though, as you mentioned, put it all together, he's not necessarily on my radar for a Devy prospect. But yeah, if you're in a C2C league, I definitely can see him helping your college rosters out for sure.
All right. JT, did you have any sleepers you were wanting to talk about?
A couple guys I had in there. Bo Nix, we kind of talked about it. I think this is a chance for him to really show that he's moved on from Auburn and learned and can really put together a huge season. So I think he's a sleeper pick. A guy I like that I just think is really solid. I don't think he's ever going to go high in the draft, but I think he's a guy that in a Devy format is possibly going to get a shot at the next level, and that's Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. The guy has just been super efficient with the ball. He doesn't throw picks. He's just been really, really efficient the last 2-3 years. originally looked like he was going to transfer, decided to come back to Coastal Carolina. If he can put together another 3,500 yard season with 30 touchdowns and only 1 or 2 interceptions, like he has the last couple of years, and he's shown a little bit of running ability. He's not a guy that's going to, break out and run for, 500, 700 yards, but he's a guy that definitely can run the ball and get the ball in the end zone. I just like him, as I could see NFL teams really kind of latching onto a guy like that and giving him a shot in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of an NFL draft. So he's a guy that kind of is a deep Devy I'm looking at as a guy that I think is going to have a good season. He's also a really good C2C guy, so I've got him in a couple C2C leagues. So I like him as kind of that really deep Devy sleeper. Outside of Brady Allen, Sam Horn's a guy, again, like you talked about Wegman at Missouri, who is probably one of the biggest recruits they've had since Chase Daniel at Missouri, as far as a quarterback play. Redshirt freshman, plays on the baseball team. Garcia transferring in maybe slows his role this year. If he can end up winning that job, Brady Cook is going to go back in and try to win that job again, but I think Garcia might end up taking it from him. But I see Horn in the future as a guy that could end up, if he doesn't start this next year, redshirt sophomore year, coming as a starter. I like his ability. I just think the kid's got moxie. And again, that baseball arm, he's just got a really strong arm. He's a guy I'm keeping an eye out on. And then that 2026 class, Aiden Chili's from Oregon State. The reason I like him is Oregon State's kind of a sleeper up there in the West. Nobody really thinks about them with Oregon, but they've got some talent on that team. Damian Martinez, their freshman running back, was just absolutely outstanding last year. And I think he just, again, having the chance to go in and get a shot at starting, I think he's going to get a shot. I think he's going to get a shot there, and if he can get in there and start playing, I think he jumps up lists. And again, all these guys at some of these really big schools, it's nice that they're at those schools, but if they don't play, I see guys moving ahead of them. Even if those guys maybe were higher rated coming out of high school, guys that get play is what people want to see. Guys want to see people that are playing as freshmen and sophomores and showing that they can put up stats at an early age. And so that's where, kind of like he said with Arizona State, I think if you get some of these guys get a shot at some of these smaller schools, I could see them jumping up big time on Devy lists.
Sure thing. I'd like to do something special here to kind of close the show out. Every show, I want to do a quote unquote Devy spotlight on someone. Since we're doing quarterbacks tonight, I kind of want to look at redshirt sophomore Drake Maye. Everybody knows who Drake Maye is. Not really an introduction needs to be said about him, but he is someone that may or may not be a little polarizing. He is my QB2 in my Devy rankings and the overall number 2 player in my Devy Superflex rankings. Physically and athletically, he is the prototypical NFL quarterback. Could end up rivaling Caleb Williams as the top 24 NFL draft prospect, actually. He's elite with the intermediate and deep ball. He's a weapon with his legs. He actually led North Carolina in rushing last season, while also taking 40 sacks on the season. Negative sack yardage actually counts against your rushing numbers in college football. So that's actually pretty impressive with 40 sacks, that with all the negative yardage taken there, that he led North Carolina in rushing. On the negative side, he kind of tends to lose his fundamentals a little bit. That's very easily fixed as he gains experience and as he gets more proper coaching. Going into the 2023 season, he'll have to work with new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey. Phil Longo left for Wisconsin in the offseason. With that being said, I wouldn't be too overly concerned with it. But with that being said, Maye's overall numbers could take a dip. Lindsey uses more screens as an extension to the run game, so Maye could lose a little opportunity. He could lose some opportunity to run the ball. Could also lose some opportunities in the intermediate parts of the field. Again, I wouldn't be too overly concerned about that, though. You guys have any thoughts on Drake Maye?
I love the talent, love the guy, and again, saying earlier I'm a Duke fan. It's hard to say that for a North Carolina player, but I mean, you can't knock it, man. I mean, you said it, leading the team with rushing. You look at quarterbacks that do that. You want to compare him to the Josh Allens, and he's definitely someone that Caleb Williams had a phenomenal year last year, and I think that just pushed him on top to everyone's top, of the Devy rankings. But don't sleep on Drake Maye. If he jumps even further ahead than what he did last year, he could easily become that one and easily become the QB1 of the class. Assuming he doesn't stay again. But he's someone that the running back room is kind of the same. He's not really getting much help from there, and he's someone that has to take control of the field, and he does it, without any fear of making a mistake. He's someone that when he makes them, he learns right away and he adjusts quickly. He has a great IQ. He's someone that can make every throw you want to see in the NFL, but yet extend the play when it needs to happen. And that's someone that, with the era that we're in the NFL, you want those type of dual threat kind of quarterbacks, and Drake Maye can definitely be that. So, I love him, and I'm excited to see what he can do this upcoming season.
Yeah, I'm in on Drake Maye. I think he is a really good player. I think he has everything you're looking for. He's a guy that with the coaching change, like you said, I could see things slowing down a little bit this year for him as far as production wise, just as they're trying to make some changes. But I'd keep an eye on that. If you're somebody looking, you don't have Drake Maye, but you're trying to get him. If he gets off to a little bit of a slow start, maybe somebody in your league gets nervous and is willing to deal him because the coaching changes, slight, switch over some of the wide receivers. I could see him not coming out on fire and then people being like, ooh, kind of talk him down a little bit. But I don't think that's going to make a difference for me with him. I'm not worried about that. If that does happen, I think he does have the ability. But I think that's something to keep an eye out for in case North Carolina comes out slow and maybe he comes out a little slow, that maybe you get an opportunity to buy him. Because that's about the only time you're going to get to do it without way overpaying, I think, at this point. So that's just something I'm looking out for. But, yeah, I definitely think, it's going to be a big debate if him and Caleb Williams come out next year. I think you're going to see a lot of the debate just like it was with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud this year about which guy everybody wants, who thinks that they fit his system a little bit better. Maybe this guy fits my system a little bit better than this other guy. The biggest thing I think about those two guys is you're not going to have the height-weight concerns that you have with someone like a Bryce Young. Both these guys have really good size. They're what you're looking for at QB. But I think it's going to be a hot topic come this time next year before the draft on who you like better between these two guys.
I 100% agree. Also, North Carolina, they lost Josh Downs they lost him to this draft. They did replenish at wide receiver though. Devontae Walker transferred from Kent State, and Nate McCullum transferred from Georgia Tech are going to be really, really big threats on that team. Big time weapons for Drake Maye. So his production may take a little bit of a dip, but he still has weapons to work with.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's all we got for tonight. It was a really, really cool show to talk through a lot of this stuff. We went, looks like about 58 minutes long, so that's probably what we're going to aim for moving forward. JT, SC, I really appreciate you guys being on here with me. Let's try to get in here in a week or two.
Yes, sir. Hopefully next we get to talk about some running backs or some wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go running backs next show.
Yep, sounds great. Yeah, just remind people, keep checking out for us on Dynasty Pros. Check out the Twitter pages. We've got all kinds of people putting up stories here about all these guys we're kind of talking about. And then obviously we take some of that data and the things that our team's doing over there at Dynasty Pros, and then we kind of throw it all together and talk it as one big group. But yeah, I'm excited about getting into the rest of these recruits, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends over the next couple weeks.
Oh man, get us Devy guys together, and we could talk about this stuff all night long. We kind of got to control it here a little bit. Again, thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you want to know when we go live, hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.